Hey, and welcome to the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast. I'm Serena Shoup, CPA, a mom of three, and I've been running a virtual bookkeeping business from my home since 2017. You are in the right place if you are a bookkeeper, accountant, or an accounting student, and you believe and know in your heart that your purpose is bigger than sitting in a cubicle. If you're ready to learn some actionable tips and strategies for starting and growing your accounting business, then I hope you stick around. Welcome to the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast. Today, I have one of my students on the air with me, and we're just going to kind of go through her story, and hopefully you'll find some inspiration in this episode. So welcome, Nicole. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. So I'm going to have you introduce yourself and how long you've been in business and where you were at when you discovered the Ambitious Bookkeeper.
Uh, so my name's Nicole. I've been in my business now as bookkeeping probably for the last 5 years. Before that, I was doing bookkeeping for some of my admin clients. I've always done virtual assistant work. And then during COVID, I actually started working for QuickBooks. And then when I was working for QuickBooks, I came across an education program for bookkeeping. That was around Thanksgiving. There was a big special, so I purchased it, and it really dives deep into what exactly bookkeeping is, how you use it, how you use QuickBooks, more than not just using the software, but the actual bookkeeping portion. And then I finished up with them with like a year later, but while I was working for them, I did actually get clients. And then I was looking at Asana with Alyssa, and then I saw her mentioning you. So then I jumped over to BBA and then to Elevate, and we've had this relationship for a while now.
I know. It's been a few years, it feels like.
Yeah, a few years, yeah.
It's always interesting to hear like how people end up in my world because there's so many different avenues like that. And it could be from collaborations I've done or just randomly finding the podcast, but I'm always curious. Yeah. And then there's so many, like you that have been around for so long that I'm like, when did you jump in? Where was that? How was that? So it's always fun to hear that story. You were bookkeeping for QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Live, I guess.
Yeah, QuickBooks Live, yeah.
Was it like when you started doing that, did you have the desire to be on your own like at some point and you just needed experience, or were you just kind of like walk me through like how you ended up even working for QuickBooks Live and that whole thing?
Well, it was the same thing. I had one client already, and I knew how to use QuickBooks from years past when I was working for someone like 20 years ago doing QuickBooks Desktop. But then I think it just came to, I saw ads that they were looking for people, and I thought, my confidence wasn't that great on doing it on my own. So doing QuickBooks Live definitely helped my confidence. I was put in the cleanup department, so I learned a ton. It wasn't just onboarding people. I was grateful that I was in the background. And I learned so much about cleanups and how the books actually work and just a lot of stuff. Then I just started getting a couple more clients because they encourage you to work for yourself and for them. And then I was only working part-time for them. And then it kind of just snowballed. I did have to have wrist surgery, and that kind of stopped me working for QuickBooks. But then once I recovered from the wrist surgery, it just all fell into place. Back then, just kept going on my own and got a couple more clients, and I was happy with that.
When you discovered the Ambitious Bookkeeper, it sounds like you were starting to build out your own workflows using Asana. But what was one of the other big things that you were trying to solve by, joining a community like this in a program?
I think, the education I did was more about education. It was very straightforward on how to get a client, like do this, do that. This is how you do the books. But it wasn't like it didn't give me enough confidence to build a business. And then when I saw, I think it was your workshop that I first did, and I think that is what helped me see all the things you have to offer. And I think for me, it's really important to gel with the person that I'm being taught by. So I had a couple of education programs I was going to go with, and then I ended up going with the one because I liked the way he taught things. And then when I listened to you, you just gravitated to me, similar personality. So I have to be with someone that I'm going to listen to, and I'm not going to go, oh God, I can't stand listening to it anymore.
Yeah.
So that was that. And I think I was just looking for more the confidence to build the business rather than just how to do it. I think I needed that support, and that's what I got. Definitely got that from the workshop. Just made me realize I can do it, and give me some of the beginning tools. And then I think doing BBA was mind changing for my business as it's gone up and down, really.
Yeah, and we could talk about that too since you've been in the community for so long, and for anyone listening, when you join BBA, you get to stay in the community. I'm not like, "All right, your time here is
Yeah.
done." And so when you're deciding to pivot your business like you have, or when things come up as you grow, you still get to tap into that community. You get to join the calls and get that support. And there's been other programs that I've taken where it's a finite time of when you're allowed to like be a part of the community, or you have to
Yeah.
pay extra to stay in, or even just the content will go away after a certain period of time. And the only thing that we do that with is the workshops, because we offer them twice a year anyway. But
Mhm.
the content, like once you're in BBA, you're in for life. And so you get to refer back to it time and again as you're pivoting your business. So, do you want to talk about some of the ways how you've started your business and where you are now, like, and how you've pivoted? And
Um, so when I started out, obviously, I think the education portion was one thing, but I will say that their group, like I know we have BBA, but then I went to BBA VIP, and I think BBA is definitely a growing community, but I do feel like I know that I think you say in your courses when you offer it too, it's like you have to already know bookkeeping because you're not teaching
right.
bookkeeping. So the other course that I was in was more like teaching bookkeeping and telling you how to get clients, but very minimal. But the community grew so much from when I started that it just became like before of us, there was maybe a couple of hundred of us, and we could do a call and you might get your question answered or would go forever. And there was people of all different levels, and you learnt a lot. But then it just grew so much to thousands and thousands. It just doesn't work for me anymore. I like more of the personal touch because I think that's one thing you do really well is when we do have our Q&As or even, typing something to support or writing something, there's always that personal touch to it, which I like the fact that you still teach everything, you're still there. Sometimes for our work class sessions and whatever, it's different, but actually for BBA, the fact that you are the one that's there and you're talking, I think that made a huge difference. And then I got the confidence, started doing bookkeeping. My niche was real estate. It grew pretty quickly because my husband's in part time real estate as well while he was active duty. Now he's full time real estate. I got a lot of clients from that connection. A lot of it was cleanups of years and lots of flips and investment properties. And I just felt really bogged down with it as far as there's just real estate bookkeeping can be really difficult because it's not just straight
Mm-hmm.
expenses and income. There's so many more things you have to look at with the properties and flips and whatnot. So I kind of got burnt out from it, and then I kind of had a bit of a life like changing, just like change of life that you just feel like getting older and all that kind of stuff, and I just lost all my confidence. And then I remember having a private session with you, and we talked about where I was at. And then I gave it a break. And then once I started to feel better personally and started to feel more like myself, then I really had the confidence to go back.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing wrong with changing how you do your business or who you serve. One thing I've learned from BBA a lot is saying no to people and firing clients. And I think that was one of the things you never like to do or you don't know how to do it well. And I think you really helped with showing us how to do that. So that worked well for me. So I kind of got rid of all the big real estate investors that I had and I focused more on just the simple clients that are in and out and it's the easier bookkeeping.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of just kept going and now all of a sudden it's just blown up again with cleanups, and I've got 4 cleanups this month and I've got 3 new clients, and they just came out of nowhere because it's tax time,
Yeah.
around that tax time. But yeah, definitely your business can change, your model can change, you might take a pause. I'm fortunate that it's not my livelihood. I have a husband that supports me, so I don't need to work per se, and I don't have to put everything behind it. So I understand that some people like have to make this work. They don't have the choice to do whatever. So I'm fortunate in that sense. But I think for my mental health and my well-being, I don't think I could have kept going the way I was. So I think pivoting, talking to you and changing and really getting rid of some of those clients and having a fresh look at things definitely changed. And I'm glad I didn't close up
Yeah,
in that sense because I was close to doing
I
that when we
remember.
talked. Yeah. So I was close to just closing everything down. And then, yeah, slowly came back to you. So everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, that's one of the things too that I try to make sure people understand. And someone asked me a question the other day about, or maybe it was a post in a different group, and they're like, I hear all these podcasts about like these huge firms, and it's like, I'm not interested in doing that. I just want a handful of clients, but I want to know how to do it right. And so I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
that's my bread and
Yeah.
butter.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you do. And even though it's not the hands-on bookkeeping, you still give tons of advice. And if we're stuck and say, how do I do this or how do I book that, whatever, you're always there to answer it.
Yeah.
And I think having that confidence too that you're, tax preparer and you have all that knowledge, plus you did corporate, all the things you've done, lets me have a good feeling that the answers I get, even in BBA, I always feel confident with the answers
Yeah.
that people give rather than the other community where it's a mixture of people with levels and everyone's telling you something different. It's like, I don't like to rely on the student group necessarily for the answers,
Hmm.
but some of the other inspiration, but the actual answers I'd like to get from the educator who knows what the answer is,
Yeah.
because you can go that way too.
And I try to be very transparent too when it's like when it's not something I know about. I'm like, well, this is something I would definitely ask like a CPA or whatever. Even though I am a CPA, it's different. Like it depends on like that particular client and the rest of the picture a lot of times.
For
But
sure. Yeah.
yeah. So now that you are a few years in, well, when did you start your business? How long has it been?
Uh, 2019
Okay.
officially, like actually made a name, got a sole proprietorship. Before that, I was just doing bookkeeping since 2003. I did have my own business back in Australia, electrical business that I was doing the books for and payroll. So I already had an experience
Mhm.
with that. But my background is teaching. I'm a teacher. For me, yeah, it kind of changed. But 2019 is when I officially started the bookkeeping business
Yeah.
journey.
I don't know if I realized you had a teaching background. So how does that play into the way you work with clients?
I think, well, I'm I'm a teacher that's very structured. So I'm like your old school teacher.
Yeah.
To me, it's just I have the organization skills which you have to have as a teacher, to stay on top of 30 students. So I think that's a huge
Mhm.
plus. I think I really have been enjoying like where I'm at now is switching more to setups and some training. And I think that has helped a lot
Yeah.
with how to teach people, and everyone is different. So I try to ask them, do you want, paper and some questions, or do you want it like a Zoom? Or, I try to get them to do it hands on instead of me doing it for them when I'm training. So I think just being a teacher and just, yeah, I mean, it's different working with children than it is with adults, but I think you can still apply your teaching to your business because I think as a teacher, we are our own little business.
Mhm.
We've got our classroom, our students, and so that's definitely has an impact on how I run my business for sure.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I started out as an elementary education major. I don't know if if we've talked about
Oh,
this
really?
before.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Oh,
And then I switched to accounting, but here I am teaching.
yeah. See, and I started off with accounting at community college in Australia. I started doing accounting 101, and then I switched to early childhood education, and then I went to uni and got my degree in early childhood and education, and then I started teaching in the primary school, which is kindergarten to sixth grade.
Mhm.
So that's kind of, and then I moved to America, and I just couldn't get a job as a teacher in
Wow.
California. It was just so hard to get a teaching position back then.
Interesting.
There was just hundreds and hundreds of people at these job fairs trying to get a teaching position.
Wow.
So then I went back to what I knew, which was running my own business back there. It's like, okay, I'll go back to the admin. So I think they both work hand in hand.
Yeah.
Personally, I mean, there's a lot of teachers out there that are a little bit different, and I think it's a different world now to 20 years ago, 25 years ago. But I definitely think teaching can have a good, it helps you with organizing your business.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, pretty much any experience that you have doing something somewhere is going to, if you can
Yeah.
connect the dots and make it work, like it's just, there's, it's a win win.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's true, and yeah, you can apply any of your skills to it if you really want to,
Mhm.
and you want to make it work. You just got to put in the hard work. People say, "I can't get clients. I can't get clients." Well, sometimes it's hard if you don't like to put yourself out there, and I really don't. I'm just fortunate that my husband gets me most of my leads, and then one of the CPAs I started working with, he sent me several. So it's good to build up that relationship that they have confidence in me to send me clients. So that's been really good. But yeah, you have to be patient and you have to really work at it. But I think you also really need to know how to do bookkeeping.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think that's going to be a big part of it. You can help with all of our business and how to be efficient and all the stack deck we can use and all that kind of stuff, which is so helpful because it really helps you build your own business to suit you and to be efficient. But I think you still have to know the bookkeeping. Otherwise, you can. I just feel like I have to have that confidence to do it.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree, and I wanna kind of back up to what kind of brushed over how you get clients, but I want to bring that up again because I think it's really important and illuminating that you know yourself and you know you have a hard time putting yourself out there. So what you've done probably accidentally is made connections with a couple of people that have the reach that you need.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you've proven that you know what you're doing. So those people have confidence in your work and they have no problem selling you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the good part is once you build that relationship with just that one person, and it took me a long time. I mean, this CPA I met at a baby shower, and he wanted to open a portion of his business as bookkeeping, and he wanted me to come on and do all the bookkeeping and oversee all the bookkeepers. Well, that wasn't really what I wanted to do, and that was at the time in my life where I was really not confident, so it never really worked out. But then they sent me somebody and then they sent me someone again and now they've sent me two other people and it's just working out that they're telling their clients if you don't get someone to do your books we can't do your taxes anymore,
Mhm.
and these are big clients too. Yeah, exactly. It just takes time. You just have to be patient. You can put yourself out everywhere and then get nothing and then get really discouraged, but don't give up. Like just try to maybe focus on one or two things and really give that a try, whether you go into Facebook groups or talk to people. I think sometimes if you put yourself out there everywhere, it gets a little bit discouraging when you don't get a bite.
Because it feels like you're doing so much, but in reality,
Yeah,
if you're putting yourself out there everywhere and you're only tapping into one of those places once a week or once every couple weeks, for you it feels like a lot of work because you're spreading yourself thin, but the people that are in
yeah,
those areas aren't seeing your name pop up enough for it to make a difference. So it's kind of counterintuitive. So yeah, like what you said is focus on one or two areas, be consistent, continue to show up. That's the thing with marketing is sometimes it takes a few months of consistently
yeah.
showing up in a place for it to work. But then when it does, it kind of like all happens at once.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think sometimes the education programs can make it seem very, oh, you know everything now, and you put yourself out there and go on LinkedIn and go on Facebook, and they just make it like they say it, then they wash their hands like, "Duh, duh, duh, you're done now. You'll find someone." But it's not that easy. And I see people in that group all the time saying, "I still haven't found anyone. It's been months," but it takes time. It really takes time
Yeah.
to build.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do still think the best way to if you can just get that one client and serve them
Yeah.
really, really well, eventually they were going to send you someone else.
Exactly. Yeah, it's word of mouth. And that's where I think, I mean, all the marketing is wonderful. I don't do a lot of it, to be honest. I'm just been fortunate. It's been all word of mouth and referrals. And I prefer that
Yeah.
because you know me, like I like to know who I'm working with. And I used to struggle with, like, one of my clients sent me like 6 referrals and I met with all of them. And not one of them was a good fit for me. And through you helping us say, how to put it to say to them, I don't think we're a good fit, whatever, I was able to turn them all down because, first of all, a lot of them didn't want to pay what a bookkeeper should be paid. They're on the East Coast, so in the smaller states, so everything was cheaper. So, they think it's too expensive, but they all had such I can just tell. I just have a gut feeling when I talk to people,
Mhm.
and I get that sense. So for me, it's like if I get that sense that I talk to you and I think we gel, I'll definitely try to win your business. But if it's someone that I really don't think I get that vibe, I just politely would say, then, I don't think I'm a good fit for what you need and whatever.
Yeah, it's really important to listen to that, and I talk a lot about this in my
Yeah,
programs,
yeah,
is like honoring
exactly.
your
Yeah.
intuition, because if you do have like that weird gut feeling initially when you meet someone, chances are that's going to come back to haunt you. And I do still want to recognize, like you said, there are people that do need that business, and sometimes you have to weigh the risk of that red flag of like, okay, well, I know this is probably going to end badly eventually, but right now it's a client and it's experience,
Yes.
and sometimes
It's
you
money.
make that
Yeah.
sacrifice, and I've made that
Yeah.
sacrifice too.
Well, it's true.
So,
We've all done it. I've done it from the beginning. It's after time that you learn that who you want to work with, and that's where you just have to be. I'm just fortunate in my situation. I know not everybody's in that position, and people want clients, and they'll take whoever. But I just feel with BBA, the support is there that you can not only learn how to run your business, but I think it's you touch a lot on how to work with your clients, not the hands-on bookkeeping, but how to mold them to what you need, how to communicate with them, how to handle those difficult discussions. Like, I think there's a lot more. I think BBA is more of the personal touch as well.
yeah.
It's definitely showing you how to run your business and all the things you can do and to be efficient. But I think for me, the biggest takeaway has been how to deal with those difficult situations and having the support of the BBA Facebook group, because everyone's had experiences one way or the other. And when everyone shares in the group, especially in the VIP group, it just, you just know, we all kind of have been there.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing is like, once you have the business, well, how am I going to move forward in it? How am I going to be successful? How am I going to make this work and not feel like I'm working now more than 40 hours a week? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, it is really important to have that community aspect, and that is one thing I love about our community. Like you said, it still feels small. We've had maybe a couple hundred people go through the program, but at a certain point, people kind of drop off and stop participating, so it's been able to stay a tight-knit group.
That's what I love. Yeah, exactly. It grows, but I think, like you said, people drop off, and you can always come
Yeah.
back. Like, it can be sometimes like I just don't make the call or whatever, and then I'll come back. Oh, I have a question, and then I come back and I ask my question, and then I'm sucked back in, and then I come back every week. So it just happens that way. But it's a good thing because you guys are always there, and that's what I think is important for people to know. It's not just one and done. The support is, yeah, amazing.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And the personal touch thing in the
Mhm.
program, this is one of those areas that's always a question mark for people, is like, well, I'm not brand new in business. So like this program kind of shows you how to start and whatever your business,
Mhm.
but like I try to make sure people understand that it's also, if you've been in business for a few years and there's some things that aren't working, or you want to start to like set yourself apart from other bookkeepers, because of that communication aspect and like the reports that we provide and things like that. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit too.
Very true. And we can always learn something new, and you'll always learn something new on some of the calls, and things come up that you like, well, I've never experienced this. Like, how would I handle this? And yeah, you guys in the community has always been there, which, I've always appreciated. I always just feel more confident having that support from both the education portion and from the business portion. But after a while, the education portion kind of drops off because then you kind of know what you're
Yeah.
doing. So you do need someone like BBA or like that platform where you can keep going with it to keep growing or changing your business.
Yeah. Well, I super appreciate you participating in the community as much as you do. I love answering questions, and I've said this before, like on the live Q&As. It's like when people I need people to come ask questions, because that's what I'm like, I've got to have that. I'm a generator, so it's like you ask me a question, I'll give you an answer and it'll start a discussion.
For
But
sure.
yeah, I really appreciate you always bringing stuff to the group and providing that experience and learning opportunity for other people too, who may not know that they have that question. And yes, thank you so much for coming and sharing on the podcast as well. if someone is on the fence about maybe joining the workshops or BBA, what advice would you give them to help them make that decision?
I think I would have them look at where they're at their business and what are they looking for, because every course can be different. And the workshops, I'm trying to remember all the workshops from back then because I think it's like is it a 5-part or a 4-part?
Yeah, it's like 3 workshops and a bonus.
Yeah, and there was one with the stack deck, wasn't there? Like you do the
Yeah,
stack.
the tech stack. Yeah.
Yeah. Remind me what the different ones are, the different workshops.
Yeah. So the first kind of what it takes to run a virtual bookkeeping business. Then we go through the tech stack, and then how to build a business, not a job. And then the final day is selling without the sleaze.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I think if anyone is looking, if they have their business but they want to really make it their personal business and have the confidence to change as your business changes, as the economy changes, as the world changes, as the environment changes. Things always change differently. Everyone says, oh, I think from COVID, so many small businesses came about. So all these people need bookkeepers. That's great. But if you don't really know how to bookkeep, you shouldn't be taking on booking clients.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. You have to learn that. But I think once you get to there, BBA is just that extra step of showing you how to do it efficiently and how to be true to yourself. Because I feel like you guys do tap into us, like asking us, well, what do you want to do for your business? And how do you want your clients? And which clients do you want? And I think it's more about us finding that good fit. And I think the workshop just goes through all of the efficiencies of having a business, but also focusing on us as the business owner and how we can sell ourselves without being sleazy, because none of us like selling.
Yeah.
So that was a huge part of it. Yeah, I think if you're ready to take that next step and really make your business your own and make that a reflection of you, not just it's a business and, turning and whatever business out, I think that's what BBA is great for. Well, that's what it's been great for me too.
Good. Thank you so much. And if you want to connect with Nicole, join the program. She's in the group. She participates. She comes on the calls and you'll get to hang out with her.
You can hear my accent the whole time.
I know. I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you to everyone who helps make this podcast possible. Content and interviews are produced by me, Serena Shoup. Our intro and outro music is written and performed by my brother, Ian Gilliam. Editing is also by Ian using his awesome sound engineering skills along with Descript software. Hosting and publishing is by Buzzsprout. And you can check out the show notes for links to all of these amazing resources and resources mentioned in the episode.
Be ambitious.